Okay, good morning. No, good afternoon. Today is March 5th, and this is the bill hearings of the Ways and Means Committee. First, House Bill 1207, Delegate Charkoudian.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, colleagues. For the record, Delegate Lori Charkoudian asking for a favorable report on House Bill 1207. This is a local Montgomery County bill, formerly MC 7-25. The bill is related to compensation for the Montgomery County Board of Education. It's been significantly amended, and so the bill that's in front of you right now just deals with the compensation for the student member of the board. And the student member of the board works as hard as any of the adult members of the board, and we recognize that right now their compensation is solely in the form of a scholarship that is for the cost essentially to attend school, room and board in Maryland University. And we recognize that not all members of the board are planning on going to college, and we also recognize that there's potential members of the board who may have a personal or family situation that requires that they work and bring in income. And so what the Montgomery County delegation chose to do is to adjust the compensation so that the student member of the board may take some or most of their compensation in the form of a stipend, instead of a scholarship, or split it, have some of it be stipend and some of it be scholarship. So that's the gist of it. The idea is to ensure that we consider all of the potential student members of the board and the diversity, economic diversity of potential student members of the board. The Montgomery County delegation is in full support of this, and so we ask for a favorable report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for Delegate Charkoudian? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1207. Is Delegate Hill here? Okay, we're going to skip over. Is Delegate Rose here? Okay. Delegate Howard, House Bill 1267.
I have two of them. If you want me to knock them out back to back, let me know. Okay. I certainly can do that, absolutely. Okay. Colleagues, good to see everyone. Madam Chair, for the record, Delegate Howard, pleased to present House Bill 1267. This is last year's bill about local boards of education being able to designate Veterans Day as a public school holiday. As the committee is well aware, there's legal and illegal absences, and right now, Veterans Day is not designated as a legal absence. This bill would correct that.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1267, House Bill 1275.
Thank you again. Delegate Howard, pleased to bring House Bill 1275 before the committee. Anne Arundel County Board of Education Constituent Services Liaison. This bill would require the establishment of a constituent service liaison for the Board of Education for Anne Arundel County. We are waiting to hear back. So let me back up. So for 3 years, the Board of Education has put this position in their budget, and it has been stripped out, removed, whatever you want to call it. And the position has not been filled. Right now, we have about 594,000 people in Anne Arundel County. As you all know, whether you have a child in the school system or not, you pay taxes. So essentially, these board members have 594,000 constituents and literally zero staff to help them interface with the constituency. This would seek to correct that. We are waiting to hear back from the county executive on whether or not he plans to fulfill the position in the recently passed $1.86 billion budget from Anne Arundel County. And yeah, we heard it in the education subcommittee in Anne Arundel County. One of the delegates came up with the idea of reaching out to him directly to see if he planned on removing the funding for the position, which, by the way, the bill also removed the fund, the $120,000 that was in there for the position, just put an FTE. That way there was no unfunded mandate. So yes, we're waiting to hear back from him, but there's a lot of appetite for this, not only in the delegation, but also in the subcommittee.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. That
And,
concludes the hearing on House Bill 1275. Delegate Warman, House Bill 1272. Come on up. Is this your first time in Ways and Means?
It is.
Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, and distinguished members of maybe the second best committee in the, no, the first
not a
best
good way to start.
committee in the House of Delegates. My name is Delegate Teresa Borman. It is my pleasure to be here before you guys for the first time. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to support House Bill 1272. It makes a critical step forward ensuring safety of young athletes across our state. Youth sports play an invaluable role in child development, building confidence, teamwork, and resilience. But with these benefits comes a responsibility to ensure that participation in sports is as safe as possible. Over the years, we have been leaders in concussion awareness, heat safety protocols, and injury prevention measures. Yet, as sports evolve and new safety risks emerge, our policies must evolve with them. Right now, there's no centralized body in Maryland tasked with evaluating, coordinating youth sports safety standards across all disciplines. That means policies may vary widely. Critical safety updates may not reach every team, and some young athletes remain at unnecessary risk. This bill creates a Youth Sports Safety Advisory Commission, bringing together medical professionals, sports organizations, coaches, and safety experts to study best practices, identify gaps, and recommend strategies to minimize risk for our young athletes. The commission won't be another layer of bureaucracy. The way that we envision it is a solution-oriented body focused on using evidence-based research to provide actionable recommendations. It will examine injury prevention, safety protocols, and emerging threats, ensuring that Maryland remains proactive rather than reactive when it comes to youth sports safety. Some may argue that individual sports organizations already have safety measures in place. And while that's true, the reality is that there are inconsistencies, and not all young athletes benefit equally from the best available safety protocols. A centralized, data-driven approach will ensure that every child in every sport in every community across Maryland has access to the safest possible playing environment. This is not a partisan issue. This is a common sense issue that puts the health and well-being of our children first. No parent should have to wonder if their child's safety is an afterthought on the field, in the court, or on the mat. With HB 1272, we ensure that safety is a priority. Throughout the process of working this bill, I have spoken with key stakeholders in youth sports, including coaches, administrators, facility operators, and other professionals. They emphasize the importance of safety measures such as coaches, sports administrators, and equipment manufacturers and facility operators be included in this bill. I fully support this amendment, and we've made the changes to the bill. I appreciate the feedback, and I'm open to any type of changes that the committee wants to make. I urge the committee to issue a favorable report on this bill, and I thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1272. I do not, are you presenting 1323? Okay, go ahead, you can go ahead. Oh, I see, okay, Delegate Hill, I see you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. For the record, I'm Delegate Chawu from District 9A. I'm presenting 1317 today. So HB 1317 is a necessary reform to bring transparency, accountability, and fiscal responsibility to superintendent contracts. Currently, superintendents are able to take away millions of dollars. For example, $1.3 million, $1.5 million, when they left their position earlier because they just couldn't work with the school board or the large school board trust. These millions of dollars are at the expense of taxpayers and the school resources. Just one simple calculation is around 20 teachers' position per year. And the bill introduces structured and fair contractual terms, which help to reduce excessive payout and prevent the departing superintendent from securing unreasonable severance packages that drain education budget and undermine public trust. Under HB 1317, superintendent contracts will be held to clear and enforceable financial limits. Severance packages will be capped to prevent the superintendent from receiving excessive benefit after their termination. The bill has the following terms. If a superintendent leaves with 1 year or less remaining under contract, they will receive their full remaining salary. If more than 1 year remains, they will receive 1 year's salary plus 1 additional month per their full service year. Healthcare benefit will be limited to maximum 1 year or until the superintendent secure another job. Third, buyouts for superintendent removed for the misconduct, including immorality, insubordination, or financial mismanagement. This will not be fulfilled due to their forceful and dishonorable removal from the employment. The urgent need for this bill is understood by recent high-profile cases that reveal how unchecked superintendent buyouts deplete the public fund from school system. In Howard County, former superintendent Renee Fools received $1.6 million buyout, including lifetime health benefit and additional retirement contributions after serving only 5 years on the school board. I didn't know that, like a lifetime healthcare coverage before, so I just saw that and kind of astonishing. Taxpayers are forced to pay nearly twice what she would have earned if she had completed her contract. In Montgomery County, former superintendent Monifa McKnight received a $1.3 million payout, despite serious concerns about her leadership, including the mishandling of harassment complaint against an employee. The separation agreement also included additional benefits, such as the legal fee coverage and a waiver allowing her child to attend Montgomery County public school system, even if she moves out of the county. This issue extends beyond the county-level superintendent. Maryland former state superintendent Mohammed Chowdhury, despite facing controversy over toxic work culture and allegations of improperly handling state records, retained his full salary even after stepping away earlier. In Frederick County, former superintendent Teresa Arban lived with an $800,000 buyout shortly after Department of Justice investigated that her mistreatment of students with disabilities in her district. These presented cases hint a clear pattern. Without oversight, this excessive payout to superintendent will divert taxpayer money away from our students, teachers, and the classroom. The problem is not unique to Howard County. Texas, Nevada, and many other states have already implemented buyout limits to reduce the cases similar to what we are facing now in Maryland. HB 1317 aims to bring Maryland to the standard with these practices, ensuring that public money ends up in the hands of students rather than education executives. By implementing consistent contract framework to establish the benefit for existing superintendents, this bill will increase transparency and accountability for the school district. And it actually helped the school board to negotiate a new contract, providing them and the public and the policymaker a clear and easy to understand contractual term, while also holding superintendent accountable for their performance. So I urge the committee to support this bill and provide a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay. I don't think there are any questions. You gave us a lot of information there. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1317. Delegate Hill, House Bill 1242.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Terry Hill. I'm presenting House Bill 1242. Those who've been on this committee for a while know that pretty passionate about trying to make sure that we do the best we can in seeing that our kids are equipped to learn. And to that end, I've had a number of bills before you trying to address the problem where many of our children who fail vision and screening test and whose parents are notified that they failed the test never go on to have the proper examinations to determine what those deficits are, and more to the point, never go on to get those supports, specifically things as inexpensive of glasses. And so we've got kids in school who frankly aren't equipped to read and aren't equipped to learn, and we're spending a great deal of time, investment, and money trying to help kids optimize their education opportunities, and something as inexpensive glasses aren't there. So understanding that there are financial implications and all that, what I introduced this year was for a work group to look at this issue between the Department of Education and the Department of Health. And I know we have now received some information from both of them. Again, we have a fiscal note saying that this is in the $133,000 plus another $67,000 in the next fiscal year, which makes it really undoable in this fiscal year, in this fiscal climate. However, I have also spoken just a few days ago with the Department of Health, who have said to me that they think this should be a priority. And even without the Department of Education, who we're still talking to, they are willing to do 3 things to try and move this issue along, as I suspect that the committee will not be able to move the bill. And that is that they're willing to use some of their students, public health students who will be coming aboard in a few weeks, to actually do some of the research and the needs study to look at the resources in every one of our 24 jurisdictions. They will look at some of the local contracts with Vision to Learn to see if they are, where they're doing their programs and what success they have, and they will review the education information that we have been giving to parents under the Atticus Act for a number of years, and trying to bring that, to update that and bring it into some uniformity. And I think that's a start, and I hope that this will continue to be something, and perhaps the chair will consider even sending a letter to the Department of Education and asking them to treat this as a priority as well.
Delegate Hill, those are some good suggestions. Do we have all those suggestions with the Department of Health students doing research and all that? We have that information.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Delegate Hill? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1242. House Bill 1313, Delegate Long.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair. Do you have an order that you would like for me to go in? Or? Okay, I'll go with the one that's in my hand. Simple enough. For the record, I'm Delegate Bob Long. I'm here for HB 1211. This has to do with student arrest and reporting. And I'm glad to hear that there's going to be a work group put together, I believe, a work group to address these problems. I've been bringing this bill forward for the last 5 years, knowing that there's a problem with kids being arrested in school, not being reported and putting back in school and putting other kids in danger. So hopefully that with everyone that's been involved, especially what's taken place in the last couple of years, that this will we'll be able to finally put this to rest. You know, we want to make sure our kids feel safe and are safe in our schools. I mean, I could go on and on and on about what's happened, but we all know that. And I would ask for a favorable vote, and hopefully you'll take some of my recommendations from my bill and put it in the bill that you're going to present, and let's get this done. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I will just say, joining us for this bill and a couple more, not the one you're about to do, but a couple more, we have members of the Judiciary Committee. With us is Delegate Phillips, and we may have some others, Delegate Valentine and Crutchfield, joining us. We will be having an informal work group to deal with issues related to reportable offenses, because we've had numerous bills between this committee and the Judiciary Committee.
Right.
So it will be comprised of members of both committees and both
Right.
chairs, so.
I'm so glad that this is being brought forth, that we're going to finally, deal with the problems that we have in schools.
Okay, so that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1211. Do you want to do 1313?
Yes, for the record, Delegate Bob Long, HB 1313. This bill I've had several years also. It has to do with student behaviors in school. It would require that a child that's, according to the bill, whatever the, if a child has been disruptive, bullying or whatever, that after so many disruptions that they would have to go in front of they would have to go to counseling along with their parents. I think this is a good idea, because, a lot of the problems actually come from home. A lot of these kids have problems that are coming from home. And I would like to see this passed. Just to give you some information, majority of Maryland teachers report noticing a noticeable rise in disruptive behavior within the classrooms, as we've all heard, since COVID. A survey conducted by Emma White Research last summer included interviews with more than 1,000 public educators from July 10th to July 15th. Results show that 3 in 5 educators say that they are more likely to retire early or leave public education for other careers due to student behavior challenges. Veteran teachers are most likely to quit the profession because of the unaddressed issues. We're facing severe teacher shortages. We cannot afford to lose any more teachers, especially our veterans. Basically, this bill also, it's a clear role for parents to address behavior. We need to have the parents involved. I know it's going to be tough, but I think it's going to be the best thing we can do is get these kids into, some type of behavioral counseling along with their parents, and, let's keep these kids in school. And that's my, thank you so much for hearing my bill.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1313. Do we have Carolyn Ananson from the Department of Juvenile Services here? Okay, so we will pass on that. Delegate Miracle North, House Bill 1303.
Is anyone from Chris here? No. Children Opportunity Alliance? Yeah.
You have Christina Push.
Yes, Chris is what I was referring to, Madam Chair. She's in another, she's in the Senate right now on another bill.
Okay.
And, given the lineup, I told her where I was and where everything is, so
Do you wanna-
I can certainly present now for the sake of time.
You can wait.
I can wait.
You can
Okay,
wait.
thank you.
Are you ready? Okay, come on up. So Judiciary is here for this one. House Bill 1265. Right. Thank you. And then let's check to see if the virtual witness is not there. Okay.
Are you ready, Madam Chair? All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Kara Annenson, and I'm the Director of Legislation, Policy, and Reform at the Department of Juvenile Services. We're here today in support of House Bill 1265. The Moore-Miller administration asked DJS to lead an interagency review of information sharing procedures for youth charged with or convicted of a violent crime while enrolled in Maryland Public Schools. This bill seeks to address two information gaps we found by requiring superintendents to transmit reportable offense information upon a youth transferring or enrolling in a different school and closing a gap between the Juvenile Services Education Program and the local school system by requiring JSEP to transmit reportable offense information to the school system when the student is re-enrolled. Additionally, House Bill 1265 requires DJS and the Maryland State Department of Education to staff a work group that includes the State's Attorneys Association, the Juvenile Services Education Program, the Maryland Chief of Police and Sheriff's Association to develop an operational protocol to ensure the transmission of reportable offense information. We are aware that the Public School Superintendents Association of Maryland would like to join the work group, and we're supportive of that. For these reasons, we ask for a favorable report.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you very
Thank you.
much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1265. Delegate Tomlinson, House Bill 1194.
Just trying to figure out what's in my pocket. Towson Tiger. All right, great to be back again. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, my name is Delegate Chris Tomlinson. I'm testifying on House Bill 1194. This bill requires public elementary and secondary schools, the Maryland School for the Blind, the Maryland School for the Deaf, and schools that fall under Juvenile Services Education Program, JSEP, to develop and implement a system to track and report injury incidents that occur on the school campus. And just to be clear, when we're talking about injury incidents, we're talking about incidents where, whether intentional or accidental, whether that had to be from where it was a student or teacher or school employee committed, where a student, teacher, or school employee injured another student, teacher, or employee. So this isn't a situation where somebody, tripped over their own feet and got hurt. That's not what we're talking about here. So throughout college and for a little bit of time after I went to college, I served as an instructional assistant in Carroll County at an elementary school that hosted something called the BEST program, which was for students who had who had some behavioral issues. Thankfully, the student that I was assigned to, he was really great to work with, but I got to experience firsthand and see a lot of the issues that teachers and instructional assistants and students are encountering every day. And I don't have anybody giving testimony with me, but I was able to receive and talk to tons of teachers in the last couple weeks, teachers from Carroll County, Frederick County, Montgomery County, so multiple different school systems. And I just want to read a couple of the issues that they've faced in the classroom. Being slapped across the face, hair being pulled, kicking, biting. I was told the behavior just gets worse and worse as the years go by, left with bruises. They went to the administration multiple times crying, stress about the work environment and how it's unsafe for both them and the kids as well. One teacher told me about how a kid had given her 3 back-to-back concussions by throwing an iPad at her. She had, when they called the administration, when they called the principal, they'll explain the situation, and a lot of times the kids are not being disciplined. Another teacher received a concussion, came back after she took some time off, came back from after she took time to heal. She came back, and another kid threw a full water bottle at her, almost giving her another concussion. Over and over and over again, I hear these stories, and I'll leave you with the one last quote here. If teachers would be required to document these kind of disruptions and incidents, I think the administration could do a better job, could do better at their job. And this bill is not by any means trying to change any existing policy. It's not trying to really bring any giant changes to what we currently do in the school system. It's simply allowing us to capture the data, because right now, this is not one of those. This is not one of the many things that we do track. eventually. I think that it would be a great idea to do something down the line, depending on what the data shows us. But I can't imagine this is a situation where this isn't an isolated situation at one school, one county. This is something that we all hear happening across the board in every school system, across the state, and quite frankly, across the country probably. And so I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed, especially as we're talking about Blueprint. We have a goal here to hire thousands of teachers in the next couple of years. One of the teachers I talked with, she taught for 5 years in 2 different school systems, encountered the same thing, regardless of where she was, and she's totally left the school profession. And we saw this with a lot of teachers post-COVID. So I think if we want to not only retain teachers, but attract new teachers to come to the state of Maryland, we need to really address some of these situations, address these issues, and it's going to be hard to if we don't capture that data and really have a good idea of what we're looking at and what we're dealing with. And with that, I ask the committee to please issue a favorable report, and if you have any questions, happy to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions for the delegate? Yes, Delegate Feldmark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate, for the bill. I did just have a question. The bill seems to focus only on public schools. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I guess I'm just curious, why limit it to public schools? Or I would presume similar incidents would happen in private schools as well. Did you have a specific thought on that?
It was simply as far as trying to present a bill that I thought would face less opposition. Obviously, the private schools would have come in with some strong statements. I know there's a letter of opposition from the Department of Juvenile Services, and they make I think a fair case as to why they should be not included. I'd be happy to amend them out if that's the desire of the committee. I just kind of assume that several of the private schools and the organization that represents them would have had a lot of problems with it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. There were 2
Thank you.
people signed up unopposed. Is Bill Kress here or Brett Langinger? Come on up. AKA Timothy Hutton. This is your first appearance this session?
I'm sorry?
This is your first appearance this session?
It is.
Okay, well, welcome back.
Thank you. Mr. Kress is across the street testifying. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. Brett Leininger here on behalf of MABE, Maryland Association of Boards of Education, testifying in respectful opposition to the bill. While MABE fully supports student and staff safety as paramount priority, the legislation creates operational burdens without providing necessary resources. We already maintain robust systems for documenting and addressing student and staff injuries. The bill would create, in our minds, a redundant tracking structure that overlaps with things that we're already doing and divert valuable time and resources for educational priorities. Under Maryland law, currently schools must document all physical altercations and internal incident reports immediately, and immediately report serious physical altercations resulting in injury to school administration, among other things. The fiscal note says for the local effect that local school systems can likely implement the bill's provisions with existing budgeted resources. That's not the feedback that we're getting from our client. We would have to develop new tracking systems that may not exist, train staff, allocate personnel time, and so on and so forth. Additionally, the definition for injury incident is very broad and vague. Mental harm is highly subjective and impossible to define or document, among some other issues. And we think that it would create potential legal liability if notifications are delayed or incomplete, and kind of with the vagueness, tying to the vagueness component of the definition. We provided in our testimony some constructive alternative approaches for the committee's consideration.
Okay, questions? Delegate Patterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the comment. I have a question regarding, and you fed right into it, regarding alternatives. Certainly, we are aware that safety not only of teachers, but everyone in a school setting is crucial. Can you share some of the alternatives to address the concerns that we have?
Sure.
Or that are stated in the legislation?
Absolutely. We've listed 4 components, and I'll just kind of read through them. To direct the MSDE to evaluate existing reporting systems and identify any gaps or improvements needed. 2, to enhance current data collection mechanisms rather than creating entirely new systems. Funding, that's obviously going to be a big issue for any new mandated reporting requirements. And 4, develop clear guidance and definitions in consultation with educators and school administrators.
And you feel that the policies in place, procedures are sufficient in terms of looking at the data and making recommendations around LEAs?
Yeah, I do. I think that what some of these recommendations are to take a look and see if there are any gaps. The way that this bill is drafted is very vague and broad, and I think a lot of unintended consequences are probably unworkable.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Delegate Miller?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you aware that your letter, Mabe's letter, contradicts the DLS fiscal note that was?
Yeah, I referenced in my oral testimony, it says that it would, for local effect, it would be minimal?
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about where it's explaining current law. It says, state law does not address the reporting of injury incidents in public schools or state institutions. MSDE must require each local school board to report incidents of bullying, harassment, intimidation against students, and MSDE must submit an annual summary to the General Assembly. And then there are, of course, the issues of restraint and seclusion, which of course have been eliminated. So that leaves teachers very few options to handle these situations. And the option that they have is to put the classroom, the students onto one side of the classroom, or to remove them from the classroom, which also then, if that's the only teacher in there, has a lot of safety implications. So what you're saying, you as Mabe, as representing Mabe, as all the school board, you don't see that that's been an issue, especially in the last 3-4 years as we've gotten rid of restraint and seclusion and not being able to use it?
I personally don't have an answer to that question, but I can get back to you.
That would be great, because from what I've heard, Delegate Tomlinson was correct. There are a lot of issues going in our classrooms which are causing our teachers to leave the situation, the profession. We have SEIAs and IAs and teachers that are retiring or being put on medical leave because of PTSD, from the trauma, from concussions, and I'm not talking about things that are even reported. Mm-hmm. So when I asked my school system about it, because of course I did, when I asked my school system about it, they said they don't really have a way to track it, that the only way this is tracked is if they file a workman's compensation claim, or if there is a discipline report, like a suspension. Well, we don't suspend second grade and lower usually, especially kindergarten, and a lot of these situations are where children are throwing iPads, which they have in their hands because sometimes that is their either assisted device or that is technology that's being used in the classroom for any type of classroom activity. So they will have that in their hand. And so you have children that are throwing chairs and these things at the kindergarten and first grade ages. What do you propose if we don't start getting a handle on tracking these incidents, and we want teachers to stay in the profession? Not only that, but we want to support them. We want to support them in this issue. They're sending them to the principal. There is absolutely no recourse. There's no, a lot of times there's nothing the principal is doing to handle this. And then that just sends them right back to the class, and we're on this session. So truly disruptive students could go to a non-public placement. It can take up to a year, and the non-public placement has to approve that student to be able to go there. So we have serious concerns and serious issues, and I'm very disappointed that MABE is not taking a lead on this, and I'm very disappointed that MSEA is not taking a lead on this because our teachers are suffering, and other students are suffering, and they are...
Is there a question, Delegate?
Yes, so what would you, in light of that, in light of what I'm telling you, what would you have us to do? If you don't think this is the right mechanism, would you be willing to work with the sponsor to come up with an appropriate mechanism? Because the cost is too high to not.
I'd be happy to take that back to my client and get with the sponsor.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, thank you. That concludes the hearing.
Thank you.
On House Bill 1194, Delegate Rose, House Bill 1264. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Delegate Phillips. Yeah. Yes, House Bill 1264.
1264. It's great to be back in my old home here at Ways and Means. It's always wonderful to see everybody. I'm back again, once again, with my math credit bill that would allow for one of the graduation requirements for high school graduations to be substituted with a computer science or computer programming class. You have my written testimony, and you've heard me passionately talk about this several years in a row. I believe it was voted out unanimously last year, and I think the last 2 or 3 years, the Senate is always the problem, so, which we all know. Just to add very briefly, and I know it's late in session, we're all very tired, this has no fiscal note. This is enabling legislation. I know that the fiscal note mentions AP courses and CTE courses, but that does not give equal opportunity to all of our kids to be able to avail themselves to these classes. You have to have a certain GPA to get entered into the AP courses, and it has a cost to the family, especially in Carroll County. Our CTE school we were able to expand it, but we still turn away a ton of kids, and many of them are being turned away from the computer classes. We do still have it listed in the bill, Delegate Ebersol, who isn't here, the Algebra 2 requirement, so that is covered, which was a concern. It does also mention in the fiscal note that schools can offer technical education, and I believe I've told this committee before, my son took Tech Ed. Tech Ed is a very basic course. It teaches keyboarding. It teaches, this is what a server looks like, and this is a keyboard, and that type of thing. So as to quote my son, that class was a joke. Our kids know how to use keyboards, almost from kindergarten at this point. So the purpose of the legislation, and the reason I keep bringing it, is because I'm passionate to encourage and give value to these classes, because it is a very good career path. You do not need to have a 4-year costly education. If you could start taking these classes during high school and maybe even go maybe to just a community college and get some certifications, you are able to go down a career path. A typical help desk technician opening salary job would be about $65,000. So for those reasons, I'm still passionate about the bill, and I'm happy to be quiet now and answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1264. Delegate Valderrama, House Bill 1323.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, esteemed members of the Ways and Means Committee. Good afternoon. For the record, Chris Valderrama here to present House Bill 1323, which has been extensively amended. Just want to point that out. And it now focuses on providing professional development for social studies and history teachers using existing resources compiled by widely respected Asian American organizations throughout our nation. The bill further establishes a $75,000 grant so that teachers can attend these approved workshops without paying entirely out of pocket. The bill also allows school libraries to request up to $1,000 to purchase quality, age-appropriate, Asian American-themed nonfiction and fiction books for their local school libraries. So I just want to mention, so when Illinois became the first state to mandate the teaching of Asian curriculum at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, I thought to myself that, and excuse my language, it was about damn time, quite frankly. So I thought this inclusion was long overdue, and so did our Maryland Asian Caucus members as well. And a no-brainer for a state like ours here in Maryland, which has long stood for equity and high standards in its educational system. So I believe it's even more critical now that the role of the U.S. Department of Education is unclear and more responsibility is being placed on us, the states. And so for me, as an Asian American curriculum is not about being, as we like to say, woke, or about filling our children with guilt about wrongs that they did not commit, or about propaganda and telling students what to think. So to me, Asian American curriculum is about providing a complete picture of the American experience, including the triumphs and struggles of those whose faces look like mine. And it's about teaching our students to expand their individual experiences and to think critically about events in the past and in the news. I firmly believe that Asian American history should be part of our American social studies and history curriculum. I also understand that there are some members of this committee who also believe teachers should not have mandates on what they must teach. Although I would be remiss if I didn't say that after looking at our current standards, that has long gone out the door already, but we do have educational standards. We do have ideas that must be taught and events that must be taught with little room for divergence. But I think about these required topics and I start to wonder to myself why some of these teaching moments cannot include a small sliver, just a sliver of Asian American history. And so a mere mention of how generations of Asian Americans contributed to the forward progress of our nation would be welcome. And I will just give an example of how this might work. So most students at one point in their education, I would hope, that they are learning about the 14th Amendment of our Constitution. So at least I hope they do. And so it's hard to overstate the 14th Amendment's importance in our jurisprudence. Besides overturning the Dred Scott decision and for all time declaring that formerly enslaved Americans and their descendants are undeniably U.S. citizens, the 14th Amendment also established the right to due process, equal protection, and made those important rights applicable to the states and to all Americans. And in our current political atmosphere, where, quote, birthright citizenship is again being debated, we overlook one of the proudest, most monumental accomplishments that the Asian American community has contributed to our collective history. And that's because I'll mention this seminal case determining that someone born in the United States, regardless of their parentage, are themselves U.S. citizens, became settled law back in 1898 in a case called United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which stated that someone, if born in this country, is as much a citizen as the natural-born child of a citizen, and by operation of the same principle. And so I bet if I were to ask any of you in here if you ever heard the name of this case, or even about the facts and circumstances leading to this landmark case, I'm pretty sure few of you could truthfully answer yes to that question. And so without getting into the weeds, Wong Kim Ark, he was born to Chinese parents, born here in the United States, went to China to visit his family, came back, was rejected because they said he was not a citizen. And so this gentleman sued and eventually prevailed before the US Supreme Court, where he singularly established birthright citizenship, not just for himself, but for others born in the US of parents who themselves weren't US citizens. And you're asking me, why am I giving you this whole spiel? And that is to say that for you to consider why in all discussion of the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, why is this man never mentioned? And so it is this example where I believe this oversight is rooted in the fact that Asian American stories and history are unknown even to some of the teachers responsible for instructing our children. And perhaps those teachers don't see the importance of acknowledging a major contribution that an Asian American made to our greater jurisprudence. So I'm not here to ask you members here to delve into the original text of this decision, the 14th Amendment, or any of that, but simply to say that a mere mention of a contribution, in particular this contribution, or any others, is a source of pride for so many Asian Americans, and even a brief aside would suffice. So for many of you who have served on this committee, this bill is not new to many of you. It should not be, although it's, as I mentioned, majorly amended. But I'm passionate about this bill, and I would like to point out, because I think it's just ideal, our chair and vice chair both represent Howard County and Montgomery County, and this issue was brought to me by a group of students from both jurisdictions who felt that their history was being dismissed. And if you'll recall, for you members who were here last year, you had a slew of students, and I know it was time-consuming, and I appreciate the patience that you gave them. But when they first spoke about their educational experiences, they used terms like invisible and perpetual foreigner and less than, and that they didn't count. And so as I reflected on my own experience on what I was taught in my social studies classes and history classes right here in Maryland, I duly recognize that they had a point. And so I also recognize that it's unusual for a group of middle school and high school students to seriously petition their government about an issue that they feel needs to be corrected. So while I was prepared this session to bring back the same bill, I decided that it was time to revise it and hopefully get on the radar here with this committee. The bill has been amended as a compromise. It's not a direct mandate to teachers, but rather we see it as an opportunity for teachers to expand their own knowledge and earn required continuing education credits, hopefully without too much out-of-pocket expense. This is not my first choice, but it's a start and one that can be realistically accomplished given our current budgetary limitations. And I just wanted to say one thing about, we were told, or my office was told, that this would be bill sponsor only, and so I just hope that the members here, and especially our leadership in this committee, will take my comments as it's intended. There was a lot of students who were disappointed that they could not come before you again to present their testimony. So I was trying to do that for them, on behalf of them, to the extent that I could. But I do want to mention that this bill, again, did not originate from any type of Asian American organization that, or even the national organizations that I belong to and which I have served for a while. It did not come from any of well-known, well-funded lobbyists we deal with on a daily basis here. As I said, it originated from a group of students, majorly from Montgomery County and Howard County, that wanted their voices to be heard. And so I really appreciate all of you listening to them, and I hope I did them justice by coming before you this afternoon. And with that, I really want to point out that there was a lot of students here. I know they were here for, I believe Delegate Acevero had a bill before you earlier this session with numerous students. I just want to point out that those same young activists, they mobilized and generated approximately 30 letters in support of this legislation, and I hope each and one of you have a chance to at least skim some of them to see their testimony. And so with that, I urge a favorable report of House Bill 1323. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and we know you're very passionate about this bill, and we have a policy, if we've heard this bill before, or any bill, or it's a local bill, it is sponsor only. But
understood.
Questions, Delegate Wu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Father Roma, to present the bill again. If I look through the unfavorable position, for example, from Public School Superintendent Association, for Board of Education, and the Maryland State Board of Education, they have many opportunities, like testify in front of our committee to support other similar bills and other initiatives. But when they come to Asian American curriculum, they come together to really say that we're unfavorable for this bill. I just wonder, how do you feel about that?
I want to make sure I understood your question. You're saying they're unfavorable.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
They
I
have
don't have a
maybe-
fancy answer other than to say that's disappointing. But my office has had conversations with MSEA, and there wasn't any hard opposition when we had those conversations. So, yeah, I'll answer it that way.
Thank you. I just share some comments on this. I think sometimes they stay not opposing any bills, but they come out opposing the bills. And I really just say, sometimes I feel it's just not right for them. Just say, okay, whenever related to Asian American, this kind of curriculum or issues, they just come out against it.
Well, I will just say that, as I mentioned in my testimony, this was majorly amended to try and open a door to Asian curriculum, and hopefully this is a step in that direction.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1323. Delegate Miracle North, House Bill 1303. Ms. Push.
Madam Chair, we have one virtual witness.
Okay. All right, they are here.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, my colleagues and revered members of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm Delegate Bernice Miracle North, represent District 14, Montgomery County, presenting House Bill 1303, Child Care Centers, Teacher Qualifications and Alterations. Now, there are a few reasons why I'm bringing forth this bill. Shortly after I started my term as a delegate, I had a chance to visit a high school in my district, Blake High School. And one of the things that I found alarming was the rise of refugees joining that particular school body and the struggles that the families were facing, and how one of the struggles included the opportunity to work. That, coupled with the fact that this session, it brought to my attention that there was a heightened interest in having more refugees go into the child care sector, but the issue was not having that required high school diploma as currently required because of the way a lot of the refugees came without their documents in a rushed manner. And so that, in addition to the fact that in Maryland, especially according to the Comptroller's report, there's a need for more accessible childcare or more parents in the workforce, I come before you with this bill. And essentially, this bill is going to codify existing regulatory requirements into law by establishing minimum experiential qualifications for childcare teachers. This will include a high school diploma or equivalent, successfully completing courses for credit, and having successfully been employed for 2 years in a registered family childcare home or licensed childcare center. And these requirements are already required through regulations, and this bill is only going to codify them into law. But this bill additionally is going to create probationary employment pathways for individuals who may not have immediate access to their documentation, ensuring they're not shut out of the workforce. Now, I do understand that MSDE has an amendment to the bill in terms of who would be responsible for providing the coursework, because currently they have a particular process that is not exactly as written in the bill. So we, of course, welcome the amendment from MSDE. But yeah, this is establishing minimum requirements for childcare that will allow refugees similarly situated to the ones that you'll probably hear from Children Opportunity Alliance shortly, to allow them to enter the workforce and improve our access to child care teachers in Maryland. So with that, I ask for your favorable report on House Bill 1303.
Great. Good afternoon. Thank you to the sponsor for your leadership and the committee for the opportunity to testify in favor of House Bill 1303. I'm Christina Push, Executive Director of the Maryland State Child Care Association. Families struggle to access child care across our state. Maryland's child care workforce is in decline. Since the initial Great Resignation at the beginning of the pandemic, attracting and retaining child care workforce has become a significant challenge. New workers are not entering the field at previous rates. House Bill 1303 supports the growth of the workforce by expanding, not limiting, entry requirements for child care teachers. Individuals without a diploma should be able to pursue industry-recognized certification to demonstrate their capabilities. House Bill 1303 provides alternative probationary pathways that recognize experience, competencies, and practical skills. Similarly to apprenticeship models, this legislation builds on experience and requires benchmarks of quality standards to achieve in a specific timeline while working working. Labor shortages in areas of critical need can benefit from skilled workers without a diploma. Individuals who may have faced challenges, including refugees, preventing them from accessing or completing high school diploma, should be given opportunities to access better paying jobs if they demonstrate proficiency and commitment. Maryland set precedent in current law decades ago to pave the way for House Bill 1303 by not requiring a high school diploma for 4,200 family child care providers to own and operate their own child care programs alone with up to 6 children from birth through school age. Why wouldn't we offer the same pathway for employment for a child care center workforce? Parents are struggling to access child care, and addressing a critical workforce shortage is a step towards increasing child care for working families. House Bill 1303 seeks to develop a workforce pipeline and multiple pathways to build capacity, similarly to House Bill 1441 last year, in child care, and addresses a critical area of need. MSCCA requests a favorable report.
Okay, thank you. And we have Kimberly Pinea Molina virtually. Go ahead for 2 minutes, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Pena Molina, and I serve as the Early Care and Education Manager for the Montgomery County Children's Opportunity Alliance, which connects our community to build an equitable, accessible, high quality, and sustainable early childhood system. As a former child care center director, I know firsthand that quality doesn't always equal the degree a person holds. I have known lead teachers with master's degrees in early childhood who lack the warmth, creativity, and engagement skills essential for building those trusting relationships young children need in order to learn. Likewise, I've employed aides with no formal degrees that can get a classroom full of preschoolers to dive into learning in the most amazing ways. The problem is, as a society, we do not value early childhood educators as the vital professionals they are. The profession lacks a unified framework for career pathways, competencies, and standards across settings and states. Leaders are working on change, but however, with a severe workforce shortage, our communities are suffering, and immediate action is needed to grow the profession. The Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services, which serves as our local child care resource and referral center, now offers core of knowledge classes in Farsi and are conducting outreach to a growing migrant population. Outreach partners reported that while many women were interested, they were unable to provide high school equivalency documentation due to either incomplete education or difficulty obtaining records from their home countries. This is particularly true for women from Afghanistan, a country which is known to devalue the education of women. These women are willing to earn their GED, but they need work now to support their families. House Bill 1303 will allow them to secure a job in a child care center with a team of other teachers and under the supervision of the administration while furthering their education. The Children's Opportunity Alliance respectfully urges the Ways and Means Committee to make a favorable report on HB 1303, as it will break down barriers and help to ease the early care and education workforce shortage we are facing. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1303. House Bill 1204, Delegate Patterson. Yes, is Andy Culp here? Or Brittany Bledsoe? You can come forward. And virtually, we have Miss Bailey is here.
We'll be fine. Good afternoon, Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Edith Patterson, sponsor of public and non-public schools student elopement. This legislation is inspired by the tragic death of a 5-year-old boy from Charles County, my county. The young boy was autistic and nonverbal and drowned after leaving a supervised area. Meeting with his parents and members of the autism community in Charles County brought to light a devastating reality. Drowning is the leading cause of death for autistic children and adults. Elopement occurs when an autistic student leaves a supervised area without permission. This behavior is not only dangerous, but as this young boy's history demonstrates, it is also potentially fatal. Shockingly, his parents learned at the end of the school year that he had eloped from school more than 700 times during the school year. Despite the frequency of these incidents, his school did not have a plan in place to notify his parents or address his high-risk behavior adequately. This lack of communication and planning underscores the urgent need for this legislation. The legislation has 3 areas. 1, it requires parents' notification. Public agencies will be required to notify a parent or legal guardian when a student attempts or successfully elopes from a supervised area or school campus. 2, it requires state reporting and accountability. The State Department of Education will develop a system to report incidents of attempted or achieved elopement and hold schools accountable for compliance with these regulations. And thirdly, this legislation will include inclusion in individualized plans. A student's elopement behavior will be viewed annually as part of their IEP or individualized education program and addressed in their behavior intervention plan or BIP. This ensures that elopement is treated with the seriousness it deserves and that tailored strategies are developed to keep students safe. Colleagues, this bill presents more than a policy change. It is a life-saving measure. It ensures that parents are immediately informed when that child elopes, allowing them to make appropriate action. By integrating elopement behavior with IEPs and BIPs, schools will be required to proactively address these incidents with preventative measures and individualized interventions. The tragic situation in Charles County is a sobering reminder of what's at stake. We cannot allow another family to endure such a preventable tragedy. This legislation protects our most vulnerable community members and ensures that schools are equipped to respond to and mitigate the risks of elopement. My legislation has support from various autism coalitions, and also they have provided amendments that we are honoring. Therefore, I respectfully urge you to vote favorably for together we can make our schools safer and help protect the lives of our most vulnerable citizens. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I just read it.
Just give you a name. Okay.
No words can fully capture the death and pain but I will try. My son Ace was only 3 years old, full of life and innocence.
Let's start with your name.
Oh, start. My name's Brittany Bledsoe. I'll start over. No words can fully capture the depth of my pain, but I will try. My son Ace Alexander was only 3 years old, full of life, love, and innocence. He was nonverbal and diagnosed with autism. A beautiful soul who saw the world differently. But on one heartbreaking day, my worst nightmare became my reality. Ace eloped, wandering away unnoticed, and found his way into the pool and drowned. In that moment, my world shattered. Elopement wasn't just a term I read about in parenting groups or a medical doctor gave me. It was my daily fear and a constant battle I dealt with. Ace was drawn to water just like most autistic children are. No matter how valiant I was or how many precautions I took, it could happen to anybody and happened in the blink of an eye. I have replayed this day in my mind over and over again, searching for something and anything that I could have done differently. But the truth is, parents like me, there's just nothing we could have done. But with bringing awareness to elopement, we can stop the elopement. Elopement stole my son from me, and it took away my chances to hear his first, hold on, I'm sorry. It took away my chances to hear his first full sentences, watch him grow in discovering his passions, dinosaurs. It robbed me from seeing his simple joys, his laughter, his hugs, and his presence. Now I live with a pain that never fades and an ache that has no words. I'm sharing this story not just to honor Ace, but to fight for a change. Elopement in autistic children are real and is urgent and deadly. Thank you.
Thank you. And, I mean, a parent should never lose a child. And, you know, thank you for coming to share your story with us. We will move to Shari Bailey for 2 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Brittany, very sorry about your loss. My name is Shari Bailey. I want to take a couple minutes to talk about the dark side of elopement. Elopement carries a very terrifying reality that many do not realize. It's not about a romantic getaway where two people start a union. Believe it or not, when I ask people, do they know what elopement is, that's typically the answer. It's actually a significant concern within the special needs community, particularly among individuals that are diagnosed with autism. Did you know that 49% of individuals with autism tend to elope? That's that's just a mind-blowing statistic. And when you think about how often, some elope as often as once a week. As a mother of a special needs child and the founder of a nonprofit that supports children with special needs and disabilities, I am acutely aware of the dangers associated with elopement and the urgent need for systems to report both the attempts and successful incidents. Just last year, our nonprofit honored a young boy who tragically lost his life drowning after eloping. In conversations with his family later, I found that they did not even know what elopement was, which is just mind-blowing. This is not just a report. This is a life-saving measure that can help quantify the probability of our young children, and frankly, adults even, but in this case, our young children and the occurrence of their eloping, and allow families and staff to make the necessary provisions to safeguard our most exposed individuals. I strongly encourage you to support the advancement of this bill to promote accountability and oversight. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the bill, and ma'am, thank you for being here, and I'm so sorry for your loss. I have an autistic son who's nonverbal, who is constantly trying to escape. He's always drawn to bodies of water, and my house has basically become a fortress, not to keep people out, but to keep them in, and we've had so many near misses, and this could happen to anybody, and I'm so sorry this happened to you, and I understand, and thank you for being here, and thank you for testifying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Delegate Roberson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we echo, thank you, Brittany, for being here. Delegate Patterson, am I hearing you correctly that right now the school system is not obligated to report if children?
They are not obligated to report them. That's why in our case, this young child had eloped. They figured it out 700 times, but they are not required in law to report it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, are there any other questions? Andy Culp, do you want to come forward and testify? Yes, if you want to.
Hi. Apologies, Madam Chair and members of the committee. I was somewhere else testifying. I just want to say ditto from the ARC Maryland that we're in support of this bill. I've received calls from family members who, when they saw this bill, got really excited that it was finally coming forward, that the schools would be compelled to call families right away, within, I think it's within 24 hours of a student attempting elopement or accomplishing elopement. One mother actually found out her child eloped because she had a tracker in his shoe, and he was a mile from school, and the school hadn't let her know, and she went and picked him up and brought him back to school. So this is a really significant issue, and I appreciate you listening to us today. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Culp? Okay, thank you all very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1204. Delegate Wallach, House Bill 1316. And
Good afternoon, Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, and esteemed members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Sarah Wallach, here to present House Bill 1316. This bill creates a technology and social media consumer product guide that will serve as an essential resource to caregivers and educators on products commonly used by our children and how those products positively or negatively impact our children's emotional, psychological, physical well-being, as well as how it impacts, how those products impact their privacy and their security. The consumer guide will be produced by the experts at the National Center for School Mental Health at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, in consultation with the Maryland State Department of Education. In year one, the center will publish information with regard to commonly used products for personal use. In year two, the center will publish information with regard to products used for educational purposes. And in year three, the center will digitize these findings. If there's no information on any given product, so if they do the landscape overview and don't find anything, then the guide will also indicate that there's no information on this product so that parents and caregivers know that we don't have enough information about how it impacts kids. The consumer guide will be shared with any parent, teacher organization, and all school systems so that it gets in the hands of caregivers and professionals that work with children. My team and I have looked for comparable guides, but maybe unsurprisingly, there's no similar product available anywhere, as far as we could tell, in our country, and nothing came up overseas as well. This committee has heard multiple bills dealing with children and cell phone use, but the reality is that our kids are using all kinds of products, all kinds of technological products, and not simply phones. The Consumer Product Guide will detail the impact of products that fall into a number of categories, including social media platforms, online games, artificial intelligence, non-algorithm-driven virtual communication platforms, e-commerce platforms, smartphones, laptops, and any other product, service, or device an individual can use to communicate with others through the internet. The guide will be written in an accessible manner so that caregivers and parents can actually digest the information presented and be empowered to make decisions about what sorts of products they want to have their children engage with. I'm especially excited that the National Center for School Mental Health at the University of Maryland School of Medicine has both the skills and the passion to put this product guide together. The guide does have a fiscal note. I do want to be upfront about that. It will take some resources to put it together. However, given that there is literally no such consumer product guide out there that's publicly available, it is an investment, I believe, that's worth making into this public good, which will not only benefit folks in our state, but frankly, people all across our country if we are able to put it together. So thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to ask questions after further testimony. Urge a favorable report on 1316.
Good afternoon, Chair Atterbury, Vice Chair Wilkins, and members of the committee. I'm Lauren Lamb with the Maryland State Education Association, representing 75,000 public school educators across our state. As educators, we know that students' learning is impacted by their experiences outside the classroom, and social media and technology tools are increasingly a large part of those experiences. According to Pew Research, 95% of teenagers in the US have access to a smartphone, and a majority of those teenagers say it would be difficult to stop using social media. The CDC reports that 16% of high school students have been bullied through social media, and the contents of adolescents' social media feeds impact their self-esteem and mental health. Though technology also has clear benefits, including for education, young people are simultaneously suffering the effects of unregulated online practices and content, including invasive data collection, targeted advertising content, misinformation, and sites and apps that are designed to be addictive. Last year, this body took action to make Maryland the second state in the US to require that online platforms institute policies to keep children safe online. We believe that this bill is a thoughtful extension of that goal. The guide created by the National Center on School Mental Health would provide students, families, and educators with research-backed guidance on social media and technology tools, including AI, mobile devices, and online shopping. Children and those who care about and for children need to be informed about the risks and benefits of the ever-changing technology landscape. We support this effort to make sure that such resources are available, especially through the lens of mental health and child development. I urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to express my support of this bill. My name is Cindy Schaefer, and I am a child clinical psychologist and professor in the University of Maryland School of Medicine, and I also serve on the faculty of the National Center for School Mental Health. If passed into law, I would lead this effort for the National Center alongside our other skilled center faculty and staff and the MSDE. The proposed resource guide would greatly benefit Maryland's families. Currently, it is challenging for parents to understand the range of social media platforms and other technologies that their children are accessing and how their children are using them. Most parents are also unaware of the risks to youth mental health and safety these platforms pose. Evidence suggests that teens with high social media use experience more depression than those who engage in it only modestly. Children engaging in social media are also at risk of exploitation and grooming by adults online. Even when parents understand these risks, they often lack skills for how to limit their child's social media consumption or to communicate effectively with them about it. A resource guide would also help schools and families learn about potentially beneficial digital resources, such as high-quality mental health apps. Research suggests that 65% of all US teenagers have used a digital tool to get help with a mental health concern, and teens are now more likely to seek such help from websites, social media, and apps than they are to talk with a friend, a caregiver, a mental health provider, a school official, a doctor, or a crisis helpline. The quality of available digital tools and the accuracy of the information they provide varies tremendously, and some are potentially dangerous. A landscape analysis of which high-quality digital therapeutics are available and how they might be provided to Maryland's young people could expand youth access to robust mental health supports, which ultimately has the potential to lower state health care costs. In closing, I am honored to have had the opportunity to speak with you on behalf of this bill.
Okay, and do we have a virtual witness? No? Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. There was a virtual that did, are they
She's not here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's
All
not.
right, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1316. Delegate Miller, House Bill 1305.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair. I am Delegate April Miller. I'm here to ask for your favorable report on House Bill 1305. So this bill came out of actually kind of after our visit to the Laurie Center. I was
amazed by the work that they were doing there, and I wanted to see if we could bring that back to Frederick County. The only way they could do it in the budget would be possibly to use the funding from the consortium, and come to find out, they had actually tried to do that and were told that they could not. So part of the issue with the consortium and the way it's being done is it's very, it's very dependent on the providers that are in that area. And that is a huge inequity for those of us that live in rural areas, especially. We don't have a lot of the resources that are there locally. We don't have a lot of providers that can step in or help give those wraparound those services or the community support with it. So that's why I asked them to do a work group to study this and study the disparate impact, because it really does put some school systems at a disadvantage, because if they have a group that comes to them, it's really hard to say no to the extra funding that group might provide, even though it's not really exactly what the school system needs as far as some of the mental health wraparound services. Or it can cause some issues. We had a provider that left the window open, so to speak, for other sites that were not appropriate for school children that they could access through this portal. So some of that was not being looked at. So I did want to make an adjustment, because I did reach out to the consortium and I did speak with them, and I understand that they have worked and resolved some of the Laurie Center issues and about how they actually award some of the funds and the groups that are in there. And I understand how disruptive it could be if we do stop or pause some of the funding, especially if they're trying to build year after year support. So I will do an amendment to take out the pause on the funding and let the funding continue, but I would like to still do a work group, and the letter of information from the consortium about most of the way down says that should the legislature wish to convene a work group as suggested, the commission believes it will be able to staff the work group with existing resources. So I think the work group is an excellent way, and looking at it, like I said, through a disparate impact and an equity lens would be very helpful for those of us that don't have a lot of services around us. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The Vice Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for bringing this bill, Delegate, and I appreciate that this was spurred by your visit to the Laurie Center. 2 questions. Can you say more about what you mean when you said you wanted to bring the Laurie Center in terms of utilizing these resources? Because
Yeah, so what
like you want to build a new school
No,
with these
although that would be
resources.
nice,
So if
but
you
no.
can clarify a little bit
Yes.
more.
Yeah, so when we were there, we learned how they do like a train the trainer or teacher training model that they do all over the world. I think it's internationally based, but they can bring the supports and services and trainings that we saw there that were so effective. They can take that to local school systems and be able to almost do like a train the trainer model, where they're training them how to initiate some of the incredible work that they're doing there.
So your issue is that perhaps you don't have a nonprofit to obtain the grant and be able to carry this out?
That's another issue. So the other issue is that we don't have, so they, like I said, they worked on fixing it. It was some of how the recommendations of the consortium itself and what they considered an appropriate use of that funding. It wasn't dictated through law. It wasn't dictated through the legislature. It was something that they did themselves. But like I said, I believe they have fixed that, and they are allowing those kind of teaching and staffing trainings to happen with the funding. So now I would like to do, as I'm looking at all the groups that do benefit from this and what's provided, I would like us to look at areas where there's perhaps either not enough nonprofits or not enough services in certain areas. And so you're getting this disparate impact that is already, we also don't have a lot of community schools. We also don't have a lot of other resources around us, plus our foundational funding is getting cut. So our rural areas and our smaller areas are getting hit a lot, and a lot of resources are being shifted away.
Well, a thought and a question. As you were talking, I did bring up the consortium awardees from the first and most recent awards from last year. And it does look like your county got quite a bit. You actually received more awards than Montgomery County. So you definitely received.
There we go. No, I do,
quite
and
a
that's what
bit.
I was looking at.
So
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if, and I see actually great disbursement. I mean, Carroll County, Cecil County, Charles County, it is Dorchester. It's pretty well dispersed. So I guess my question is, if you already know sort of the outcome on how this could work better for your area, it might make more sense for us to figure out ways that we can adjust the program and the criteria versus having a work group form, since it sounds like you already kind of know the results of what you're looking for. So
Right, and I'm not just looking, yeah. Oh,
I
sorry.
did want to point out, though, the diverse disbursement and the number of awards actually that your jurisdiction received.
Yes, and I have the list, and it's, so I'm not, obviously, I don't advocate, I advocate, of course, for my county, but and I also advocate for the entire state, and you can see across, different areas, there are different levels of providers that are available. So however whatever study or whatever we need to do to look at to kind of make sure that it is having the intended effect across the state, then I think we should, because it's a significant amount of money that is done in this consortium. I think it was 130 million total this year. And as we move forward with budget changes, that is, I put this in before, I had this before the governor's budget, that I saw that, so, and he is recommending to cut the program, so.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
2 people signed up unfavorable. Gail Martin, are you here? Come on up. And Ely Mitchell. Yep, come on up for 2 minutes, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gail Martin. I'm here testifying on behalf of NASW Maryland, opposed to the bill that the sponsor just introduced. I was interested to hear her testimony because she certainly addressed some of the concerns that we had. I'm glad to hear that, particularly recommending the one-year pause in funding. The consortium has been providing services to students in the committee who are at the schools. They're addressing barriers to learning. Children who are experiencing and families who are experiencing mental health problems are not really available to listen and learn the way that we're hoping they would. The data that I put into my written testimony covered the awards that were given by the consortium last March and only their collected data through the end of October. I have a couple of additional updated data points that I'd like to share with you. Between March and December, 77,000 Maryland children and families were served through the consortium program. 1,225 community providers were trained in evidence-based practices, and 2,252 school-based providers were trained in evidence-based practices to support mental health so that they could continue and reinforce the work that was done by the providers of the students in their classrooms. And 90% of students and families reported that they were satisfied with the services they were getting. So I would urge work with the consortium, but I don't necessarily think a work group is required. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ellie Mitchell. I was here to testify in opposition on behalf of the Blueprint Coalition. Again, the main issue that has been satisfied in terms of the lack of the freeze. Just there's a lot of urgency around behavioral health, and the need for continuity of care is critical in continuing progress. And we agree there may not be need for a full work group, but if the consortium is willing to collaborate and work together on that work, I think that's wonderful, and we support that piece of work going forward if it's deemed necessary. And that is all I have to say today, since the main issue has been resolved, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1305. The Vice Chair, House Bill 1262, and you have Ms. Julie Yang, Mrs. Nikki Hazel, and Mrs. Yvonne Alfonso Windsor. Please all come up.
Good afternoon, committee. Hello, Madam Chair, and hello, distinguished members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and I'm pleased to present House Bill 1262. House Bill 1262 looks at our post-college and career readiness pathways. As the committee is aware, one of the pillars of the blueprint is college and career readiness. And as part of the legislation that we passed, once a student meets the standard when it comes to our college and career readiness, they are then able to move forward with our college and career pathways, such as AP courses and also the international baccalaureate as well. We provide those at absolutely no cost, which is a really important piece of the blueprint. However, part of the challenge is the cost when there may be students that are able to afford these courses and exams. So what this bill takes a look at is how do we right size and make sure that we are providing our low-income students no-cost access to these programs, while also making sure that our school districts are not having to pay for those who may be able to afford it. This bill changes the language of our legislation to ensure that a student with a family income below 400% of the federal poverty level is provided access at no cost to these post-CCR pathways. But it also ensures that a jurisdiction is able to establish income eligibility guidelines and procedures for payment of the cost for the post-CCR pathway. So what we're trying to do is right size, because we know that some families are able to, and where you are able to, that's some cost savings for our jurisdictions in terms of payment, but that we're ensuring that we continue to have the no cost for our lower income students. With that, I urge a favorable report on House Bill 1262.
Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Chair and members of Ways and Means Committee, it's good to be back again. I'm Julie Yang, the president of Montgomery County Board of Education, and I'm here to support of House Bill 1262. Now, the Montgomery County Board of Education and boards of education statewide are facing ongoing budget challenges that are expected to persist in the coming years. The prescriptive nature of the funds schools get through the blueprint for Maryland's future exacerbate these challenges. The current law requires schools to pay the full cost associated with college preparatory programs, such as the international baccalaureate and advanced placement programs for students who meet the college and career readiness standard, regardless of families' ability to cover these costs independently. Boards of education are looking for ways to maximize every dollar while staying true to the purpose and intent of the blueprint. Our board sees an opportunity to better utilize funding currently dedicated to payment of AP and IB exam fees. In FY24, MCPS spent more than $4.4 million on these exams, which range in cost from $89 to $137 per exam. The Montgomery County Board of Education understands the importance of providing all qualified students access to these programs and the culminating exams. We also recognize that some families in our community do not need financial assistance to gain that access or may only need a little help. Delegate Welcome's proposal will be a reasonable solution to ensure that families with financial need will still have the full cost while we can maximize every dollar in our budget. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Nikki Hazel. I serve as the Associate Superintendent of Curriculum and Instructional Programs in Montgomery County Public Schools. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today in strong support of House Bill 1262. MCPS has long recognized the importance of providing students with access to advanced placement and international baccalaureate courses to ensure that every student, regardless of financial background, has the opportunity to engage in rigorous college-level coursework. AP and IB courses do more than just prepare students for post-secondary education. They foster critical thinking, they open doors for future academic and career success. However, we recognize the financial barriers prevent some students from fully benefiting. That is why MCPS has prioritized eliminating financial obstacles to exam preparation. While some families can afford the full cost of these exams, a significant group of families may not meet the traditional low-income thresholds, but for whom the cost of AP and IB exams remains a burden. House Bill 1262 provides an equitable solution to this challenge. At MCPS, we have successfully implemented sliding scale models for other programs, including our summer school tuition assistance. And based on the success of that program, a structured tiered approach to AP, IB exam fee assistance will allow us to reach more students while ensuring responsible and equitable allocation of resources. We strongly support House Bill 1262 to expand equitable access to AP and IB testing, and we urge the committee to give the bill a favorable report.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Yvonne Alfonso Windsor, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Montgomery County Public Schools. I am grateful for the opportunity to express our strong support for House Bill 1262, which creates equitable access to post-college and career readiness pathways for Maryland students. MCPS has long been committed to ensuring that all students graduate ready for college, careers, and lifelong success. House Bill 1262 aligns with that committee by allowing county boards of education to establish income eligibility guidelines for the payment of costs associated with advanced placements and international baccalaureate exam fees. This legislation ensures that students from families with incomes below 400% of the federal poverty level will continue to receive these opportunities at no cost, removing a significant financial barrier for many of our students and families. At the same time, this bill allows districts to charge fees to students who exceed the income eligibility threshold and are able to afford the cost of the exams. This approach creates an equitable system where families who can afford to contribute help sustain these high-quality programs. By providing counties with the ability to set income-based eligibility criteria, it allows to allocate resources strategically, ensuring the financial constraints do not stand in the way of a student's potential access to the programs. For fiscal year 26, MCPS is projected to spend over $5.5 million toward AP and IB exam fees. If 20% of the students accessing the exams were to exceed the income eligibility threshold, it would result in over $1 million that could be reallocated to support other students' needs. House Bill 1262 provides the school systems the ability to expand access to AP and IB exams while maintaining a strong commitment to equity, which is the foundation of MCPS. I urge the committee to support this bill.
Okay, Questions? Delegate Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for bringing this bill. Just two things. I see that this bill really, not only does it have no fiscal note, it says that local school systems expenditures may decrease. How does that happen? Congratulations, by the way, but how does that happen?
Thank you for pointing that out, Delegate. Finally, a bill that I'm bringing that saves some money, right? So this bill is a cost savings to all of our jurisdictions. We completely understand, I personally understand, as a student who met the federal poverty guidelines growing up, who took AP classes, and this cost can definitely be a barrier. But not every student needs this financial assistance, and right now, regardless of income, the state gives every student these courses and the tests for free. And with us making it so that we prioritize the no cost for the students who are 400% of the poverty level, it saves money for our jurisdiction so that those funds can be used elsewhere. Montgomery County mentioned that it would save $1 million, which is really significant at a time like this.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my second question I can ask you offline, so I'll just wait for that. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate.
Questions? Delegate Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very, very much, Vice Chair Wilkins, for bringing this legislation to us. I have a question of the financial officer. I've forgotten the title, but in essence for the school system. During my years at the College of Southern Maryland, we noted that the AP exams, for example, and some others were covered by College Board for students who were low income. Does that still exist today?
It does exist, but under the blueprint, because the students and their families are no longer responsible for those fees, it's the school system, the waivers no longer apply.
Okay, and the other question is, in my county, I've forgotten what it's called, but it's like first year college or college first or whatever. Does this also apply? For students
dual
who
enrollment?
first year colleges, when they, instead of going to the high school, they're enrolled at a community college for the first year, hence the name first year college.
I think you're talking about similar, what we're talking about high school students taking community college classes. But they take community college exams, they wouldn't be taking AP or IB exams.
I see. Thank you so much for the clarification. Thank you again, Delegate.
Okay, seeing no further questions, thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on House Bill 1262. House Bill 1185, Delegate Nangolo, and you have quite a few people here. I'm just going to call up the first five, unless there's do you have a particular five you want to come up?
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Latoya Congolo, representing District 31. And I am here to request a favorable report for Bill HB 1185, Homeschool Students in Maryland, Right to Play. But before I get to the bill, I just want to mention that we've had over 1,000 people sign a petition, and I would also ask anyone who is in the room in support of this bill with me at this table, or actually behind me, to please stand up. Okay, so please note that this bill has received a lot of support, and it also has received bipartisan support. You may sit, I'm sorry. So the Right to Play bill authorizes public high school students to allow homeschool students to participate in athletic activities at any high school within their county of residence, provided they meet specific requirements. This bill also ensures that if space is limited, priority will be given to students enrolled in the school. So a bill such as this has not been introduced since 2018, and I would like to point out that Colmar had changed their home instruction regulations, which were amended in 2019. So Maryland currently has approximately 40,000 homeschool students, with Black students representing the fastest growing demographic, now totaling nearly 15,000 families. By allowing homeschool students to join public school sports teams, this bill will help coaches maintain full rosters and ensure schools can field competitive teams. Homeschool students will be held to the same eligibility standards as their enrolled peers, and families will cover all costs and transportation, also preventing any financial burden on public schools. This legislation strengthens public schools by making them more competitive with private schools, which actively recruit public school athletes. Additionally, it provides homeschool students with crucial social, emotional, and physical benefits while creating opportunities for college recruitment and athletic scholarships. With 30 states, already implementing similar laws, Maryland has a chance to follow suit and provide equitable access to athletic opportunities for all students. I urge support for HB 1185 to ensure every student, regardless of their educational path, has the chance to participate and succeed. This bill is a win-win for the public schools and homeschool students. For your information, I have uploaded data for Maryland as well as national data, and an amendment with clear language on the requirements for homeschool students to participate in public school athletics. So I thank you for your consideration, and I respectfully request a favorable report for House Bill 1185. Okay, so actually like Kevin to go next.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. I really appreciate your time and consideration today. My name is Kevin Harrington, and I'm here in support. Close to the mic. Sorry, I thought I could speak up. Got it. I'm here in support of HB 1185. My roots here in Maryland began almost 24 years ago when I actually reported right next door to the U.S. Naval Academy. I recently transferred down to Patuxent River, Maryland, where I'm still in active duty. So this is my personal opinion, in no way reflective of DOD or Navy opinion on this. But my first big point is that 1185 is for military kids. It's good for them. My kids are 8, 10, 12, and 15. They didn't choose to be Navy kids, nor do they often receive the recognition and appreciation they deserve. As one data point, my 15-year-old son has moved 8 times, 6 of which were cross country. We homeschool in order to give them some semblance of consistency in their education. We began homeschooling in 2016 and have experienced how several states across the country work with families like ours. Living in Washington State, Rhode Island, California, and Florida, our kids had full access to public school sports. It was seamless and value-added for both my family and our local community. This is our first military move where I had to tell the kids they could not play sports with their friends and neighbors at the local school. It's been a bit of a hardship. Brings me to my second big point. Sports develop physically and mentally healthy kids. I initially came to Annapolis for sports. I was recruited for the wrestling team. The role that organized sports play in childhood development cannot be overstated. Hundreds of studies support the physical and psychological value. I want for my kids what we want for all Maryland kids, to be able to use sports to reinforce things like teamwork, discipline, resilience, fitness. These are just a few. This proposed bill gives kids like mine access to local school sports teams without any additional cost or imposition to the school. Fundamentally, it corrects an exclusion of tax-funded benefits for some Marylanders. The benefit is sports for kids. So again, thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Good afternoon, committee, and thank you. My name is Jennifer Lambert. I first want to ask all of you to please read my more detailed written testimony that I submitted on Monday. In it, you'll find a number of reasons why passing House Bill 1185 is imperative to so many of our homeschooling high school athletes, to include our military children, lack of club and rec sports, location, and child well-being. As for my personal story, this time last year, our family had to make the very difficult decision to put my son in traditional high school. He'd been homeschooled since kindergarten and has always been a successful athlete. There is nowhere for a homeschooled student to play high school football at the competitive level needed for college recruitment. And so then the decision was made. I'm sure I speak for many families when I say that we have a right to homeschool and should not have to give that up so our kids can play sports, nor should our children have to give up sports to homeschool. Parents are expected to follow academic regulations as public school teachers are. We instill values and enforce appropriate societal behavior just as public school teachers do. Through taxes, we contribute to the public school system just as other parents do. Through my research, I believe there to be 38 states who allow access successfully. I implore you to explore all the possible ways to make it work for Maryland. I understand some of the opposition to this, so I am ready and willing to work with you and negotiate on behalf of our community. I ask that you keep an open mind for the sake of our children's athletic futures. As of now, our petition has garnered over 1,000 signatures in support of this bill, and I ask that you also find it favorable. Chairwoman Atterbury, I respectfully ask that you move this bill along with negotiations in mind. I ask you mom to please meet with me personally if needed and work together. Education is a whole child experience, and that is also athletics. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Brinkley Fobel, and I am 10 years old. I'm here today because I love field hockey and lacrosse, and I believe all kids, no matter how they learn, should have the right to play. I started playing field hockey when I was just 6 years old with the Freedom Rec program in Carroll County. It has been a huge part of my life ever since. Sports have taught me how to work hard, be a good teammate, and push through challenges, even when things get tough. As I get older, I want to continue training and competing hard at a higher level. Public school teams bring that next step for many young athletes, but because we are homeschooled, we are not allowed to play. That means kids like me who work hard and are committed to their sport don't get the same opportunities as other students. Being on a team is about more than just playing a sport. It builds leadership, responsibility, and discipline. It helps kids make friends, stay active, and feel connected to their community. Right now, homeschoolers miss out on these experiences simply because of how we learn. We live here, we practice here, and we want to represent our towns just like any other student athlete. HB 1185 would give homeschoolers a fair chance to improve, compete, and to be a part of something bigger. I work just as hard as any other student athlete, and all I'm asking for is the same opportunity to play. Please support HB 1185 and help give homeschoolers like me the chance to grow on and off the field. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.
Great job.
Good afternoon. My name is Ruby Ross. I am 11 years old, and I live in Crofton. I am here today in support of HB 1185. I started playing sports when I was 3 years old. Currently, I am playing 3 sports. My top sport is travel softball, and I also play county basketball and girls flag football. Playing sports is my absolute favorite thing to do. I have always looked forward to playing sports in high school with friends I used to play with when I was younger. I also love being homeschooled and don't want to go back to school. I take sports very seriously. I am a pitcher on my softball team, and we play all year long. I practice 3 times a week with my team. I also have pitching lessons once a week and practice pitching almost every day. I do batting drills many times a week too. Last year I tallied for the All-American Games in Florida, and I was chosen to represent the Northeast. I got to play with girls from all over the country, and out of 12 teams, my team won the championship. I can't wait to try out again in May. I attend softball games at Crofton High School and have been to lots of college games as well. I have also attended softball camps at the University of Maryland, and I got to play on their field. I have worked with their head coach, pitching coach, and top pitcher. I even threw out the first pitch at one of their games. Sports keep me busy, healthy, happy, and help me make friends. I can't think of anything else I'd rather do more than play. I don't understand why I can't play once I get to high school. I think homeschool kids should be able to play sports in high school. Please help me live my dream. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank the 2 young ladies for joining us today and telling us how important sports are to you both and why this bill is very important to you. And committee, I think they did an amazing job, so thank you very much. Thank you. We do have a question. I see Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here today. You had mentioned earlier on that it allows the student to choose any school in the county. What, how does it work? Is there like, is there a waiting, like are students waiting to get into different teams, or some, like there's not enough interest? Why was it anywhere?
And thank you for the question. So in doing our research, we have found that there are some schools who cannot recruit enough students. So some public schools can't run teams because they don't have enough student interest. But then you have some parts of the county where you have too much interest. So for example, where I live in Severna Park is very competitive. So there are no open seats in Severna Park. However, if you go over to the northern part of the county, North County High School, they currently do not have a JV girls basketball team. Northeast High School does not have a JV field hockey team, and then Meade High School does not have a JV girls field hockey team. So what we would like to do is for those schools to have enough students to be able to run those teams so they can be more competitive. So it allows that flexibility for those students to be able to take those talents to schools where they have openings and, just for them to be able to compete.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for this first panel? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. I'm just going to call up the next people on my list, first 5, and just come on up and fill the seats. Chris Ryder, Isaiah Ryder, Eli Ryder, Patrice Stair, and Kelly Ross. Okay, we have an extra seat, so somebody must have stepped out. Do we have Cameron Livesay? Come on up. And just to make it easy, can we just start with you and work our way down? Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Isaiah Ryder. I am a junior this year, and I have been homeschooled my whole life. One of the most enjoyable things I have in my life is sports. I've been playing since I was about 7. Some of my best memories and friends have come from playing sports. Just this past year, I hit my first out-of-the-park home run, and crazy as it may seem, it was a walk-off grand slam. But now that my teammates have gone on to play high school ball, I will not have the opportunity to make these memories on the diamond again, all because Maryland is behind other states in its inclusion of homeschoolers. I remember my last year of playing rec football. After our last game, I cried thinking I would never get the chance to play my favorite sport again. Thankfully, in Carroll County, I found a homeschool high school football team on which I have played for the past 2 years. I really loved my time there, and I am excited to finish my high school career there this fall. But how much easier would it be for me to ride my bike 4 minutes to go to my local high school for practice instead of driving 45 minutes to and from practice? And besides, some sports are not even offered in the homeschool community. I think of swimming, golf, wrestling, and others. Also, I do not have access to a school gym where I can work out with my teammates. Since November of last year, I've been consistently working out by myself. But competition makes one better. When you see your teammates bench more than you, you just want to one-up them. These are just some of the reasons why I support HB 1185. This act may not apply to me, but I have 7 younger siblings who could be affected by this act. Thank you for your time and the opportunity for me to share my testimony with you guys, and I do hope you will support this bill.
Good afternoon, Chair Atterbury and Vice Chair Wilkins and esteemed members of this committee. My name is Chris Ryder, and I'm here today as a homeschooling parent in strong support of House Bill 1185, which seeks to grant homeschool students in Maryland the opportunity to participate in their local public school sports teams. My family has a deep love of athletics. My wife and I have 8 children, 7 boys and 1 girl, who are incredibly active in sports, including baseball, basketball, wrestling, weight training, and football. Despite their dedication and talent, they are unfairly excluded from playing in their local public school teams simply because we have chosen to homeschool. Maryland's current policy restricts homeschool students from participating in public school athletics, even though our families contribute to the very system that funds these programs. Like every other Maryland taxpayer, we pay state and local taxes that support public education, yet our children are denied access to extracurricular activities, particularly sports. This exclusion is not only unfair, but also detrimental to the student athletes who are eager to develop skills
compete at a high level, and represent their communities. Across the country, many states, including Florida, Pennsylvania, Virginia, have recognized the value of allowing homeschool students to participate in public school sports. They understand that these students are a part of the community and deserve the same opportunities as their peers. Unfortunately, Maryland has yet to follow suit, leaving thousands of capable, hardworking student athletes without a pathway to compete in the sports they love. Furthermore, participation in these team sports fosters essential life skills, teamwork, discipline, leadership, and perseverance. That benefits all young people, regardless of their educational background. By denying homeschool students the opportunity to play, we are not only limiting their athletic potential, but also restricting their personal growth and community engagement. I urge the committee to support this House Bill 1185 and ensure that homeschool students are no longer unfairly excluded from participating in sports.
Hello, my name is Cameron Livesey. I don't have my paper up here, but I'll just keep it quick. I have been playing football and baseball since I was 4. I would like to keep playing with my same teammates and friends when I get to the next level in high school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eli Ryder. As a high school student who loves basketball and baseball, I really hope that Bill HB 1185 gets accepted. It's a bill that would allow homeschool students like me to be able to play on the public school sports teams. I've been practicing all these sports for multiple years, but since I'm homeschooled, I do not have the same opportunity with my friends to play on these public school teams. If this bill passes, I'd be able to join the public school teams, play with my friends, and compete in games. I just want a fair chance to show what I can do and be a part of the team like every other student. Please support this bill.
Good afternoon. I'm Patrice Stair. I'm a homeschool parent from Sykesville, Maryland, and I'm in favor of House Bill 1185. There are currently over 30 states that allow homeschoolers to participate in high school sports. There's agreement from both blue and red states that students and schools benefit from this program. While very few of our athletes will be MLB or NFL players, they will all gain critical skills from playing sports. Being a part of a team in the corporate world, pushing past physical limits as an emergency worker, or accountability to yourself and to others are the foundation of our workforce. Schools not only benefit from increased athletic fees, but also in athlete participation. In recent news, both Centennial and Thomas Johnson are schools that have not been able to field teams due to lack of players. If Wyoming and Vermont, on opposite sides of the color spectrum, can agree on homeschool sports, I'm sure that Maryland can find a resolution as well. My dear friend was on the school board as chair and vice chair for 13 years in Maine, and he has volunteered his services in any way possible to answer questions or help develop a plan for Maryland. I believe that our schools would greatly benefit from this, and I hope that you vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. I again want to thank the young people who came here today and waited all day to testify because this is really important to you. So thank you for sharing your story. And you don't need a piece of paper. You just speak from the heart and tell us how you feel. And you did that perfect. So you all did a great job. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for these folks? Okay, thank you. I'll call up the next set. Is Kelly Ross here to testify?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go with, so we have Joshua Lambert, and then virtually, do we have Dania Ellie Luang and Locke Michael Lee? One of them? Okay. Whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. My name is Kelly Ross, and I'm here to support HB 1185. Our homeschooling journey began in 2020, like many others who were frustrated with our school system. Our family lives and breathes sports. Our kids want nothing more than to play sports every day, and when they can't play sports, they're watching. They don't understand why they won't be given the same opportunities as their friends and teammates. They understand that we do our schoolwork differently than other families, but all families do things differently. They know that their friends play sports with the same intensity and passion as they do, and they want nothing more than to be afforded that opportunity during their high school years. Sports aren't just about practices and games. These kids are learning major life lessons that will help them as they grow. Leadership, teamwork, confidence, resilience, time management, goal setting, discipline, sportsmanship, decision-making, commitment, and other qualities are needed to be successful in sports and in life. It's more fun and effective learning lessons in the sports world and being able to carry them into the real world. All of these qualities are being used here today by the members of the General Assembly to help make our state a better place, and we ask that you give our kids the opportunity to continue to foster these skills during some of the most formative years of their lives. Our high school, Crofton High School, was planned, built, and funded with our money, but we're not allowed to play sports there. This cannot continue. Our son plays on the middle school hockey team and will try out for the high school hockey team next year. Ice hockey is a club sport in our county, so homeschooled students are allowed to participate. Why must this separation exist? This tells me the problem is money. If this is truly the issue, then allowing homeschooled students to participate wouldn't change the financial aspect of sports, as we already fund the schools without utilizing them, and could finally benefit from that in some way. If others argue that kids need to make grades to play sports, that can easily be tracked. We report to the county and are bound by COMAR and are happy to share grades. The NCAA has strict academic standards for homeschoolers, so these students will already know what is expected of them to continue play beyond high school. If the argument is that my kids aren't physically in the school building and shouldn't be allowed to take part in activities outside of the school building, that doesn't fly either. Our county has a virtual academy which involves learning from outside of school, but these children are allowed to play school-sponsored sports. I just cannot see any argument for keeping my kids away from high school sports. Please allow them to achieve their dreams. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. We will move to Ms. Luang. Online, please, for 2 minutes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ellie Liang, and I am in the 10th grade, and I've lived and been homeschooled in Howard County for the last 13 years. As a homeschooler, and even just a high schooler, extracurriculars are very important and a huge part of my life. They're not only a place to find friends and make new connections, but also a place to pursue passions and show dedication. Specifically in sports, dedication and perseverance are easily observable. Sports also teach other virtues such as sportsmanship and teamwork. I myself play basketball and am lucky enough to have found a league that lets in homeschoolers, but this is often not the same for other sports. For homeschoolers to play in sports, we often need to find clubs, which can cost a good amount of money to practice and improve our sport. As we are still taxpayers, it would be monumentous for us to be let in to play with the public school sports teams. There are a few important things to note here. This bill itself won't affect present high schoolers from being rejected by a homeschooler taking their spot, as it itself says in Section C that students enrolled in a public high school will have priority over homeschooled students in the case of a limited number of spots. This bill simply opens up a door that homeschoolers never had before. It allows us even an opportunity to join a public high school sport where that opportunity never existed prior. It is also important to note that homeschoolers are held up to academic standards just like public school students. We have homeschool reviews every 6 months where we are checked to make sure we are succeeding in all 7 of our subjects that line up with what high schoolers take. As a homeschooler partaking in sports, it is extremely hard to find leagues that have the same competitive spirit that public high schools carry. There's a certain bond and friendship that sprouts from team sports, and a type of discipline and confidence that comes with solo sports. School teams can only stay healthy by always allowing newcomers in, and in any case, all kids should have a chance to experience this, but homeschoolers currently have a hard time doing so. We should join the over 30 states who have passed a similar bill and give easier access and even an opportunity for homeschoolers to play public school sports. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all very much. And again, I just want to give a special thank you and shout out to all the young folks who are here today. Even if you did not testify, you are absolutely demonstrating to us how important sports are to you and how important this bill is to you. So thank you very much. And thank you to the parents and guardians for bringing them here and waiting. So thank you all. And that concludes the hearing on House Bill 1185, and that concludes the bill hearings for today. Committee, we will vote at 4 p.m. I need to see Delegate Young and Subcommittee Chair Plakovich Carr and Mr. Johnson in my office as soon as we vacate. I think we have a subcommittee announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Early childhood, heads up, we're going to be meeting in person here in the committee room at 3:45 to take up a very small amendment to one of the bills that we reported out earlier today. 3:45, early childhood.